We're going to look at a story that I wrote during my 24-hour stream earlier in January. 24-hour challenge. I wasn't actually on 24 hours, but saw how many stories I could write in a single day. This is one of the stories that I wrote. I like the premise, and I don't dislike how the story turned out, but it does need some work. The story is called Always Weird Shit, Never Anything to Save the World. And my goal in this reread and this edit is that I want to sort of punch up the character a little bit. So our main character here, want to flesh him out a little. I want to give him some, maybe not a ton of backstory, but kind of ground him in the world. Because right now, he only appears as he is in the scenes. And then, yeah, it is the Wendy's one. That's right. The guy that goes to the Wendy's parking lot to convey prophecies. Yeah, so that's funny. Yeah, so this is a story, and I'm going to see if I can kind of give him a little bit more of a place in the world without just going overboard. I don't want to, talk about his parents or how many jobs he's had or where he went to school or any of those kind of things. I don't think that would add much to the story, but we'll see how it goes. I do think this is a story that's going to require a few passes, so I don't think I'm going to get it perfect this time, but on this first pass, I'm going to see if I can make the Noah Long character a little bit stronger, or at the very least, a little more connected to the world around him. Alright, so Always Weird Shit, Never Anything to Save the World by J. Wilburn. Noah Long walked past the dumpster in the parking lot of the Wendy's close enough to hear... Alright, there's my first correction. Right there in the first sentence. To hear the squawk of the drive-thru. The man in the truck barked back, "No, that's not it. Listen carefully." Noah, let me do... That's not how he would say it. Listen carefully this time. So it's more like how someone would yell at a drive-thru speaker. Noah moved around the perimeter of the lot without waiting to hear the correct order. He scanned for the car from his dream and thought maybe it wasn't here yet. But then he saw them. The wife waved her arms in the closed car, still running with exhaust pooling heavy underneath. If they stayed too long, they might both get headaches. But Noah knew from his dreams that the husband had more serious problems, where he slumped in the passenger seat and argued back with less energy. All right, so we've established the dreams. We've kind of established why he's here. I don't know that this first scenario is the best place to flesh him out, so I may just edit this first scene and see about doing something more with the second one. Time was short, so I got a correction there. I think I've been getting tired by the time I wrote this. Time was short, so Noah jogged up to his window and knocked on the glass. The wife looked afraid. She looked as bad off as he looked as bad off as he really was. All right, I need to be clearer here. Noah jogged up to the guy's window and knocked on the glass. The wife looked afraid. I did looked already, so let's do appeared. Kind of doing the micro editing here. He appeared as bad off as he really was. All right, I think we're good there. Noah motioned for the window to go down. She was the one who worked the button. "Hey, I'm Noah Long. We went to high school together, Owen. Lena, we met briefly at your wedding." "Now's not a good time," Lena said. "I know this isn't going to make a lot of sense, but I'm here to tell you that you need to go to the hospital right now, but it has to be University Hills." "There are at least 2 others between here and there," she said. "I'm fine," Owen mumbled. "I just want to go home and rest." "You found blood in the downstairs toilet when you found him unconscious in the floor. You found a lot of it," Noah said. "How would you know that?" He answered her question by saying, "Is there any reason I would think to find you here and know what I know without it being some kind of vision?" All right. Not sure how convincing that line is. "God told you to meet us at the Wendy's." At Wendy's? I think he would put a "the" in there. At the Wendy's. "God told you to meet us at the Wendy's?" Owen asked. Even in his weakened state, His bitter sarcasm came through loud and clear. Noah remembered Owen being funny and easygoing in school. Say an angry drunk, but otherwise fun. Alright. So he fleshed out that character a little bit. I believe so, Noah said. If you go back home, you'll die. You have a serious perforation. You have a serious perforation. It is the medical mesh they put in you last time. It's defective, and there will be a long road ahead. But you have to go now, and it has to be University Hills Medical Center. Any other place will miss it, and you'll die. The surgeon who can save you in time, the only one, is at University Hills. Lena, you have to tell them it... Okay, he'll put a preposition here. A lot of times cleaning up dialogue is kind of making it sound right as you're saying it out loud. Lena, you have to tell them it's the medical mesh and it has to cut, and it has cut the bowel. You have to insist because it's never happened before and they won't believe it unless you make them check. You have to do that. Okay, she rolled up the window and pulled away. Owen had told her to stop because he wanted something to eat. He yelled. Then he demanded to go home once they were stopped. That was the dream and the message. Let's say that was all in the dream. And the message came to Noah the same way last night. As she pulled into traffic, let me make this a new paragraph now that I've added all that. As she pulled out into traffic, she turned toward the hospital. So that was that. It was never a sure thing, and it wasn't always life and death. He hoped they'd go to the right hospital. He considered getting a burger, but Noah was growing tired of Wendy's. Alright, so I think that's fine. I need to make a little more of him in this one because we need a little more background in him, I think. This time the couple was in a boat of a car. They parked on the opposite side of the Wendy's. Noah approached them from the husband's side where he sat behind the wheel. Alright, now let's add something about Noah. Noah felt terrible. Not because of the content of the message, but from getting the message itself. He never slept well on message nights. He couldn't focus on work. And his managers yelled at him all day for daydreaming. His stomach bothered him right up until delivering the words, and for around an hour afterward. Alright. He didn't like to come to the parking lot early, but he just paced in his nearby apartment until time to go anyway. Alright, let's see how that works out. So we want to give a little more detail about our unfortunate prophet here. Noah felt terrible, not because of the content of the message, but from getting the message itself. He never slept well on message nights. He couldn't focus on work, and his managers yelled at him all day for daydreaming. His stomach bothered him right up until delivering the words, and for around an hour afterward. He didn't like to come to the parking lot early, but he just paced at his nearby apartment until time to go anyway. Alright, so let's keep moving. I think that may be the majority of what I add about his character, but let's see how it plays out. The couple was black, and Noah wasn't sure how he'd be received this time. He knocked on the window, and the man waved him away before turning back to his wife. He thought Noah was panhandling. Alright, let's say Noah bet his eyes looked dark, and he wasn't sure on his feet. Alright, he thought Noah was panhandling. Noah bet his eyes looked dark. Noah bet his eyes looked dark, and he wasn't sure on his feet. Alright. Noah knocked again. I need to talk to you, Dominic. It's important. Dominic rolled down his window. That's probably not the spelling, but I'm going to leave it that way. Dominic rolled down his window less than halfway. Who are you? Noah had not gone to high school with this man, nor had he been to their wedding. It would be tougher, but not impossible. Noah took a breath. Okay. Let's see. They didn't always listen. Noah's stomach bothered him longer on the unsuccessful days. So he was motivated. Alright, I feel good about that. Noah had not gone to high school with this guy. They didn't always listen. Noah's stomach bothered him longer on the unsuccessful days, so he was motivated. Noah took a breath and said, Dominic and Simone Ross, you don't know me, and there's no way I should know this, but I have a message for you. Get away from my car, son. Before Dominic could roll up the window, Noah said, your last fight was over who drank all the 7-Up. It got way more heated than it should have. You came out tonight for a drive with half a tank and only $8. You decided Wendy's was the only place you could stop. Now you're both talking about splitting up. Do you have our car bugged? She asked. I get messages for people in my dreams, and I was sent here to give you one, Noah said. Is there any way I could know those things about you and know you'd be here at this exact moment? After a silence, Dominic said, what's the message? If you leave this parking lot before you come up with 8 rules for communication in your marriage, you'll be divorced within a month. Another silence, and the man behind the wheel said, that's it? That's it. Noah wasn't confident this time. Why 8? Simone asked. $8 between... Okay, let's say $8 between you. I had a dropped word there. $8 between you, 8 rules to keep you together. 8 was your mother's favorite number because you were born on 8/8/88 at 8 o'clock at night. Simone covered her mouth. Oh my God. She spoke the words between her fingers. Dominic repeated, 8 rules before we leave and then we stay together. You'll have to make them work, Noah said. Follow the rules, I guess. I didn't get that. I didn't get any more than that in the vision. Okay? All I know is that if you leave before you agree on 8, it won't last. Do you want some fries? Simone held up what was left of her small fries. Noah considered it, but then begged off as they watched him leave out the back of the lot. Hopefully, he'd be able to keep down. Alright. Hopefully, he'd be able to keep down some ramen or a peanut butter sandwich in about an hour. All right, there we go. All right, so peanut butter's 2 words apparently. I'm gonna fix that spelling later. It's probably a capital. Is it with an A? Ramen? Yeah, it is. Okay. Keep down some ramen or a peanut butter sandwich in about an hour. Okay, so we've kind of established that he doesn't feel well with the messages, and maybe partly that's some of his motivation to deliver the messages is the fact that he almost feels better by doing it. Maybe almost like an obsessive compulsive thing. I would imagine prophets would be obsessive compulsive. That would match up with some of their behavior, how they're depicted in the Bible and places like that. Noah stood inside the restaurant this time. He didn't, let's say the restaurant's dining room. All right. Noah stood in the restaurant's dining room this time. He didn't see him in line. All right, we didn't mention who him is. He didn't see the guy in line or at the tables. Excuse me. Noah stepped out of the woman's way as she cursed him on her way to line. Finally, Noah called out, "Weston, are you here, Weston Ebinger?" If he was here, you'd see him. Calm down. It was another woman who looked a lot like the one who had cursed Noah for being in the way. It was like they had a mold for women like that. So the target for his latest message in a dream wasn't here yet. Until the guy, a big guy, walked out of the bathroom. Weston Ebbington? Weston towered over Noah as he looked him up and down. Weston didn't seem the least bit impressed. What? I have a message for you. From who? Noah shrugged. God, I think. Is this a joke? Not a funny one. Noah saw Weston wasn't smiling, so he pressed on. When you were a kid, you had a red bike that your brother sold for drugs. Weston's shoulders visibly tightened. Noah spoke faster. At 16, you worked on rebuilding a car. When it was finished, you sold it after saying it didn't work. Then you paid for your mother's treatments without telling her because she wouldn't accept the money otherwise. Weston grabbed Noah's shoulders and squeezed hard. Who the hell are you? Noah Long. He swallowed and said the rest in a rush. You proposed to Julia under a weeping willow by the river. You told her that she made you better, whether you wanted it or not. The message is, Weston held a shoulder with one hand and dragged Noah into the men's room with the other. That doesn't make sense. With one hand and dragged Noah into the men's room. So let's just have him holding on with one shoulder. I don't know what I was trying to say. The two men were inside, one at the urinal and one at the sink. Anyone still in here? Okay, this is a conversation he's having. Anyone still in here when I start talking gets his head caved in. Alright, that seems pretty clear. The two men exited without drying or zipping. Weston pressed Noah's face into the tile. It sounds like it's the floor. Into the line where the tile into the line on the wall. Press Noah's face into the line on the wall where the tile met the drywall. I could probably say plaster, but I don't think those things are made of plaster these days. Who sent you? I have dreams that tell me to bring messages. I think it might be God, but I don't know. It's never anything that... Never mind. I was just supposed to use all those facts to prove the message was true. I never told that stuff to anyone. Noah pressed harder. Not even Julie. Is it Julie every time? Yes, it's Julie. How do you know it? The dreams, the prophecies. I'm sorry I came, but I have a message meant for you from whatever is out in the universe. Say it already. Julie wouldn't want you to do what you're about to do. Weston's grip eased a bit, and Noah's head hurt more from the change in pressure. Did Mason send you? How does he know anything? Julie said that you saved her life from every terrible man who ever hurt her and made her feel less. You were her broken angel. All right. Weston threw Noah into the floor, which was splattered in liquid that he doubted was spilled water. Let's say it was just spilled water. He doubted it was just spilled water. Noah shook his head. You can't know that. Okay, no, that wouldn't be Noah. This would be Weston. Alright, so let me get my character straight. Big Weston, who's big time upset. Weston shook his head. You can't know that. This isn't real. Do you talk to dead people? Alright, let's put a question mark there. Noah's eyes lost focus, and he considered whether that might be it. That didn't explain all of it, though. Ghosts might be able to spy, but it seemed to Noah that something else had to be involved to predict the future or drive all these different people to the same damn fast food place by Noah's apartment. I don't know, man. All I know is that I was supposed to convince you. So we're fixing a lot of dropped words. I was supposed to convince you this message was real, and from whatever force in the universe cares about your future. Julie wouldn't want you to do what you're about to do. I don't know what it is or who you work for. All that stuff was just to convince you. You have to decide what to do next for yourself. Weston shook and tears welled his eyes. What did I say? Welled his eyes? I guess I got to put in there. Kind of sounds cool without the N, but I don't think that's correct. Weston shook and tears welled in his eyes. Noah couldn't read whether they were rage or sorrow. Either one might be the death of him. Julie was the only force in the universe that cared about me. Then maybe it is her. Maybe she's putting in a good word with whoever or whatever speaks to me in my dreams. I don't know. What I told... Alright, let's put a U here. What I told you is all I got and all I'll ever hear on the subject. Weston reached down and collected Noah. Please don't hurt me, man. Alright, let me separate that out. Noah tightened all over. Please don't hurt me, man. The big man did hold Noah too tight, but he wept as he did it. Eventually, they went into the dining area, and Weston convinced the manager everything was fine. They apparently hadn't called the police, so the guys from the restroom and everyone out here hadn't been too concerned about Noah's well-being. Weston Ebbinger bought big meals for both of them. Noah didn't want it. Alright, let's say with his stomach not yet right again. Alright. Noah didn't want it with his stomach not yet right again, but was afraid not to eat it. Weston told all about his time with Julie and a few details about how she died. Noah answered questions about his gift, but insisted that he couldn't communicate back and forth with the dead. Finally, well after dark, Noah said, obviously she can hear you and see you if she sent me this once, so you know you can just talk to her if you lose your way. That brought him another tight hug and weeping. After closing, Noah convinced Weston that he had to go to sleep in case someone else needed a Wendy's parking lot prophecy. Let's say tomorrow. As Noah walked home in the dark, smelling of piss and French fries, he grumbled to himself, I hate this place. I should move. I'm going to shower and then move. He slept blessedly dreamless that night, but knew the visions would come again, and he wasn't going to move. All right. Don't think that story's perfect yet. It's not bad. I don't think. Obviously, I'm judging my own story. I think it works, and I think adding just a tiny little bit, just the tiniest little bit about Noah, where he was, um, what drives him in the prophecies, the fact that like uneasiness and stomach ache and that sort of thing plays a part. On a second pass, if I go through it again, which I definitely will need to, I'm probably going to play up some obsessive compulsive type things with Noah. Have him when he knocks on the glass, it has to be 4 times every time. Maybe other rituals like touching his face, touching his throat, that kind of thing. So I think the character needs that kind of stuff. Now I don't want to overdo it, where I'm adding in just tons and tons of things, because I think the story paces out pretty well, even with the Weston part where they get into more of a discussion. If I were expanding this into a novella or a full novel, I would do more with the Weston relationship. So I'd have Weston come back to the Wendy's parking lot for a couple more prophecies, just watching from the distance and have them talk a little more, and then have Weston play a part in helping with what Noah's doing. I don't expect that this story is ever going to become that, but if I do need a novella at some point, there is always the option of expanding this story. So it's something I'd keep in mind.